Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 32 of the Wulong Talks podcast. My name is Jason, and as always, I'm joined by my two cohorts, Big A, the Man Geek up north. Man Geek, say what's up.
What's up, peeps?
And we got the Rustling Kid in the house as well, Rich Kid. Rich Kid, say what's up.
What's up?
Cool. Well, yeah. How you doing, man? You guys all right?
Slightly hungover still.
Yeah, I think we all are. We went to MCM Comic Con in London this weekend, listeners, which was actually quite good. It was a little bit different to what we've experienced in the past with these cons. So if we get some time on the podcast, we'll maybe talk a little bit about that. But we'll definitely have our pictures up on our Instagram account soon. So make sure you go and check that out. If you haven't followed us already on Instagram, just head to Instagram and search for Wulong Talks, and you'll find us right there. You can check out all the pictures soon. Okay, what you been up to, man? Has anybody been doing anything good this week? You been watching anything new? Have you been playing any new games? Anything like that?
I've been playing Stranger Things, the mobile video game, which is quite fun.
Oh,
What?
right.
Got a
Okay.
mobile
Yeah,
game?
yeah, it's got a mobile game. Yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't
yeah,
even know there was a mobile game. Is it
yeah.
good?
But the thing is, it plays like a 8-bit or a 16-bit over the top. You know, like that. You know, like Zelda. How Zelda used to be before it
Oh,
got all
yeah,
like
yeah,
3D.
yeah.
Like, yeah. So it's basically, yeah. So it's like that. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it so far, and I thought it was just gonna be one of those little mobile games where you just play it for like a couple of hours, or let's say like an hour, and then you've got to the end of it and it's just baton bushing. But it's like, no, it's a puzzle game, and it's put together pretty well. So I'm actually currently still playing that while I'm on the train, when I'm not reading or sleeping or listening to music. Um, so yeah, and it's a type of game that keeps, like, I want to go back to it as well. It's not like
Mm.
I've started it and then I'll finish Stranger Things and then be like, I can't be bothered. No, I want to get to the end. I want to get to the end. So
Mm.
yeah, I've been doing that gaming wise anyway.
Okay, cool, cool. Which character do you play as in the game?
You start off as, is it Hopper? Hopper, it's Hopper, right? What's the police
Yeah.
officer's name? Yeah,
Yeah.
Hopper.
Jim
Yeah,
Hopper. Yeah.
yeah. So you start off as Jim Hopper, and then I think basically how it works is that as you progress through the game, you start to get more and more people into the camp, and each person has their own specific ability. So, for example, Chief Hopper has like hammer fists, like, so he's like a big, strong guy. The first person that you pick up, if I'm doing it in the right way, because I'm not sure if there's more than one way to actually play the game, but the first person you pick up is Lucas, and Lucas has a slingshot, so you can fire, for things, you can fire at things that you normally wouldn't be able to reach with Chief Hopper because distances and whatnot. Um, so yeah, no, I'm really, really liking it. If you guys get the chance, well, Jay, you've got a prime,
Mm.
an excuse tomorrow to download it when you get your new phone. Alvin,
Mm.
you're all
Mm.
about the Android life already, so give it a go, man.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it sounds interesting. Well, listeners, if you any of you are playing the game, please let us know and let us know what you think as well, because it'll be interesting to get some different opinions on it and see what it's like. As Richard said, I've got a new phone coming on the way. Woohoo! Like finally, I'm getting rid of my dead Samsung phone. I've had so much problems with this Samsung. Um, don't care about calling out Samsung on this podcast because like I've been dealing with them for a while and they're shit. So I'm finally getting rid of it. Gonna get myself a Google Pixel and I'm gonna like join the new generation of tech bots. Not a Pixel XL though, because I've heard about the screen problems and stuff. So yeah, no, no way, not for me. But yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So definitely that's gonna be on my list. Alf, how about you, man? Any movies, TV, games, anything you've been doing?
No. Well, anything that I have done is stuff that we're going to talk about. Other than that, there is a book that I've been reading called Provenance, which it's kind of weird. Like 3 chapters in, and nothing's happened yet, but it's still somehow quite interesting.
Hmm.
But it's I need to get further because I barely even started telling the story yet, and each chapter's like 30 pages. So, like, get on with it, kind of. But other than that, no, I've not been doing anything else.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Well, hopefully in the coming weeks or so, we'll get to talk about the book that you're reading as well. Because you may remember, listeners, the last time I was on the show, we talked about starting a book club and doing things like that, and starting a few different types of podcasts along with the main one that we do. So we will be looking into doing a book club as well, getting everybody together to listen to some different podcasts and things like that. So if you've got any suggestions for us, let us know. I'll let you know how you can get in touch with us at the end of the show. All right, boys. Well, before we get into the main topic today, which is going to be our spoiler thoughts on Thor Ragnarok, let's just quickly dive into a few bits of news here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was something that stood out to me. I think the news kind of broke about a day or two ago, um, which was the news that Warner Brothers and DC are developing a solo movie for the character Deathstroke, aka Deathstroke the Terminator, for those that know the character from the comic books, and also probably, I guess, from the Arrow TV show as well, which I suppose is probably going to be more relevant to people now. Um, so WB are set on producing a movie based on the character. And word that they are negotiating with Gareth Evans to do this. Now, if you know the name Gareth Evans, it would be because you're a fan of the Raid movies, like I am. Um, Particularly Raid, the original movie, The Raid, and The Raid 2 Redemption as well. Or no, sorry, Barenfall is the name of the second one, isn't it? Or Baranto.
Mm.
Baranto. So yeah, I'm struggling with the Indonesian. It's Baranto. But yeah, apparently they're negotiating with him for the movie. So quickly, boys, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Would you be interested in a Deathstroke solo movie? And what do you think a Deathstroke solo movie directed by Gareth Evans would look like? So, Rich, I'll start with you. Would you be up for that? And would you be interested in it?
I'd be interested in seeing what Gareth Evans can bring to the table with the character of Deathstroke. Um, Simple as that. Like his, you guys know I'm a big martial arts fan. Um, I'd like to see what he'd bring different to the character of Deathstroke. Deathstroke, as far as I'm concerned, he's a he's an undersold character who's like as smart as he is physically dangerous. So I'd like to see how Gareth Evans would deal with that aspect of the character, because what we've been given in the Arrow TV show, I think is Deathstroke like Deathstroke light, Deathstroke
Mm,
zero. It feels like a drink. No, do not. Not. I'm not even going to talk bad about Manu Bennett because he's a decent actor, but I think he has done well with what he's been given. But the Deathstroke in Arrow TV show isn't the one from the comic book.
mm, mm,
Um, as well as the whole thing of that, I think that if DC are going to make a Deathstroke movie and this Joker and Harley Quinn movie, then just do like a DC universe villains little section, because I don't see how you're gonna make us watch films about people that do bad things. Like Deathstroke is a bad person. Like I mean, no matter whether you're reading like the original Deathstroke or the new 52 Deathstroke, there's times when he's tried to have like redemption in a character, but he's essentially a bad person. So I'm not sure if how that will play out in the film, but I would generally only go to see it just because it's Gareth Evans doing it, because I'm just a fan of his work, and I think he's good at what he does. So
mm,
but yeah, but if I
mm,
think it's a good idea for Warner Brothers to be doing it, it depends what type of angle they're trying to take. But as it stands right now, I don't think it's good.
mm, mm. Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that they should do like possibly a villains corner because remember they we got Suicide Squad and look how
Yeah.
great that turned out to be. So I don't know. Yeah, I would share your misgivings in that regard. But yeah, on a personal level, as a fan of what Gareth Evans did with those Raid movies, if he can bring even 50-60% of that to a Deathstroke movie in terms of his ability to tell stories, in terms of his ability to tell stories through action, in terms of his abilities to kind of make you kind of sympathize in a way with characters that aren't necessarily that sympathetic as he does quite well in the second Raid
Mm,
movie. Um, then I think he definitely is the guy who's got the goods to deliver that. Um, but yeah, it all depends, doesn't it, on Warner Brothers? Because as we've discussed many a time on this podcast now, Warner Brothers, when it comes to their DC films, they have no faith in their filmmakers, and they just want to control everything, and it ends up ruining everything. So I don't know. We'll see. But Alvin, how about you, man? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, not asked. Like literally, when they said it, I was just kind of like, why though? Like, do you? I don't know if anyone there knows what they're doing. What? It's like there's not many kind of villains that you can do a movie from their perspective, and it's like you've got to be. It's like if you want them to be the protagonist, you got to think as to what angle you're going to go for. Are you going to still keep them as the bad guy, or are you going to kind of try and make them a good guy in a way somehow? You know what I mean? And kind of blur the lines and make them a bit of an anti-hero. Is it like what you're trying to do? So overall, I'm kind of like not fussed. But when his name was mentioned, I was kind of like, okay, well, he could do something interesting with this, and at least it would be a visual treat. However, if Warner Brothers don't let him be as creative as he is, then they're just going to get kind of a stock movie, you know what I mean? And then that's going to be it. It's not going to offer anything unique. You're hiring for his uniqueness, and he knows action. He can do it on the cheap and make it look like it's really expensive. You know what I mean? He does unconventional things with the camera. Like, I don't know if you've seen that clip whereby it's the car chase scene, and literally the camera's just being passed around between 3 cameramen, like one's on the, you know what I mean, and then passing it through and all that, passing it through the car, and another guy's grabbing it and all that kind of stuff. If they let him kind of just go full throttle, I think we could end up at least with something that'll be, in terms of the martial arts and just camera work and all that kind of business, could possibly be on par with the Raid. But if they try and neuter him and cut his balls off, then no, we're just going to get some boring kind of generic action kind of thing. But yeah, overall not asked. But if they let him do what he does, let him do his thing, it could turn out to be good. Who knows? As long as at least visually good. If the script's not good,
yeah, I'd have to echo that. I think, yeah, said he really is the name that kind of stands out from this project for me. I mean, if you just announced that it was a Deathstroke movie coming out, then I would kind of be like, why? But I think the fact that his name is attached kind of would be the one draw for me, for all the reasons that you said, really, Alvin. Same thing for me. He potentially is the MVP of this project. If you don't try and neuter him, if you don't try and if you give him some creative reign to do what he does best, then he could deliver something that's quite unconventional for a comic book movie. But that may not happen if you're content to just kind of continue to do what you always do, which is make these movies by committee. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But listeners, let us know what you think, man. Especially if you're a fan of Deathstroke, the Terminator. What do you think? Would you be interested in a movie like this? And if you're a fan of Gareth Evans, I mean, would you be interested in seeing him turn his hand to a comic book movie? Let us know what you think. Okay, so we obviously can't avoid the fact that Stranger Things has restarted, because literally social media has been ablaze with all things Stranger Things for the past 24 hours. I haven't been able to start the series properly. I put on the first episode and then probably fell asleep, not through boredom, but just because it was late, and it was a stupid thing to do when it's late, because I can never watch anything when it's late. So I don't know why I did that, but yeah, there you go. But anyway, one amongst our number has actually finished the whole series, and that's Alvin. So Alv, if you don't mind, without giving any spoilers away, because we'll do a separate podcast for Stranger Things, and we'll break it down and all of that. But so without spoilers, could you just kind of like sum up what you thought of this season, whether you thought it was as strong as the first one? Does it kind of carry the story forward in a meaningful way? And where do you think it's going from here, I guess?
Yeah, well, the story in this one it's a continuation of what came before. It's not like they're redoing the same thing but different, which is really good. It's one of its strong aspects. just overall, it's very familiar because it'll be kind of like a lot of the same stuff that influenced the first one, but it's not just doing the same thing again. It's doing something different because, like I said, it is a continuation. There's really good character arcs in there that kind of not come to an end, but kind of like complete characters, so to speak, complete a character's journey and things like that. But yeah, it's very funny. I don't think there's as much horror, but there is a lot of suspense in there as well. And just it's kind of like a pick and mix, but a good pick and mix. Like there's no shit sweets in there. It's all just like
all sour cherries, yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, yeah, it's all the good shit. None of the crapness. And there are some standout episodes. Like personally for me, I think episode was it 6? Yeah, I think 6 was a standout for me. It just felt the way it was filmed and where it takes place is it just felt much more 80s to me than anything. Not that the show itself doesn't feel like that, but in the terms of the way it's filmed, and it looked like there was a grain on screen, a filter which made it look kind of less clean. So it felt like watching an old school movie to me. Like, but yeah, overall, it's just I was just so happy with it. Like I laughed, I cried, freaking, it was good. It was really good, and there's some great like kind of moments script wise as well. And then yeah, well done to the Duffer Brothers for giving us something cool. And also there's new characters in there that I think don't have much to do, but I think they're going to have stuff to do in season 3. But they are kind of a part of the story, and you do get to see as to why they are the way they are, and what causes them to be that way. But yeah, you'll see when you see the show.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks for that, man. Listeners, as I said, if you're enjoying Stranger Things 2 right now and you're listening to this, then let us know what you thought. Please avoid spoilers. Like, don't spoil it for me and Rich because we ain't seen it yet. So we'd prefer if you didn't. But if you want to give us your overall thoughts on the show and things like that, please let us know in the comments. Yeah, and we'll be happy to interact with you. Or I'll get Alvin to interact with you because seeing as he's seen the show already, so he can give you some more details and things like that. All right. And the last bit to round up was, of course, I suppose we have to mention it, the return of The Walking Dead. Now, people who've been listening to the podcast know I've kind of fallen out of love with this show now. So I've got to hold my hands up and say I did not watch the 100th episode. From what I heard from people sort of on social media and stuff, it was all right, but nothing that, was exceptional or nothing that they didn't see coming or didn't see before. So my question to the both of you really was, did you two watch it? Because it seems like not a lot of people that I know personally did. Alvin, I think you did watch it.
Yeah, right? I did watch it. Yeah.
Rich, did you see it?
I didn't, I remembered that it was coming on, but I didn't have that excitement of like, oh my God, Walking Dead's back. Like, yeah, it's gone. And I'm not the only person to say that, or that I've spoken to. I mean, some people are obviously still watching it, religiously, but it wouldn't. Yeah, I just don't have the love for it. Maybe I need to start watching it again, because sometimes I used to feel like that about certain seasons about Game of Thrones. Where it'd be like, God, what? It's been it felt like freaking ages till the next season came about, and you're like, I can't be bothered. And then you watch like the first episode of that new season, and you're like, yeah, this is why I came back. But like you said, a lot of people, including yourself, Jay, who are the big Walking Dead fans, you've been talking bad about it, but to be telling the truth about how bad it is for quite some time. This could be final season, maybe, man, from the way how people are talking.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked in to see like what the viewing figures were like on this episode, so I'll have to check that out and look up for future reference. But yeah, said just in my sort of little circle and a straw poll of of 10 people, there weren't that many that watched it. But as I said, Alvin, you did watch it, so what was your thoughts on the show? Did it live up to expectations? Was there anything that you felt was kind of lacking, or do you think it's still kind of holding your interest for now?
It's kind of a weird one, because normally a new season kind of starts off fresh, so to speak. Whereas this is just kind of a continuation as to what ended in the last one. So you still got kind of like the same kind of bad guy being Negan, and it's like normally there's a lot of setup and all that kind of stuff, but this was just like straight in there. It was just like it was an episode from last season. Like I don't think it doesn't feel like we've got a new season. It feels like we're just getting a continuation of everything that they're doing. It could be part of the last season, so to speak. Yeah, it was all right. It was pretty decent. I mean, they didn't really waste much time. It was just kind of a fair amount of action. And yeah, obviously there's something that happens at the end, which I can't really say without spoiling it, actually, to be honest. But yeah, there's stuff that happens, there's stuff that goes down. I kind of feel like this maybe should have been part of last season, but like I said, because you got the same villain,
yeah,
it is just a straight up continuation. It's not like anything new is happening. It's the kind of same stuff. It's like it's actually everything that I wanted to happen last season is happening now, and it's like, okay, so you finally got into this then, and then yeah, that's what it kind of feels like.
How is the character of Negan? Is he still chopping up the screen? Is he still doing well?
Oh yeah, he's still one of the best things in it. Yeah.
Okay,
Hilarious.
that's good.
You know what I mean? He's a bad guy you like in it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards. He's just like a bad guy you like because they're so charismatic.
I didn't like that bad guy from Inglourious Bastards, but that shows where your mind's at. But yeah, cool.
No, not like that, you idiot. Don't even be saying that. You're not.
Listen, bruv, the internet, you can't erase shit. The internet.
No,
It,
you know what I mean.
You've said it.
I'm saying Christoph Waltz is a good actor.
Yeah,
that character, the whole point of that character.
I think he's a good actor too.
You need to shut up, right, and let Jason move on because you're talking shit right now.
Now you sounding like one of them, Marvin. Now you sound like.
That is not the case. Don't be saying that stupid shit. You know what I mean, and you know I'm right as well.
Because I promise you that Alvin is not a Nazi sympathizer, so don't worry.
Arsehole.
Okay, let's move on, man. Let's move on. So yeah, let's get down to the full review now for Thor Ragnarok. Now, for those of you who are listening to this, you should probably know by now that I did a non-spoilers review for a new kind of podcast topic, I guess, called "Is It Worth a Tenner?" As I mentioned on that podcast, it's something that I'm looking to do because a lot of people have been asking us to do short movie reviews and recommendations and things like that. So that is kind of the start of it. So in that review, I do like a non-spoilers kind of review and a summation of my thoughts of the film. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I would strongly suggest that you don't listen to this part of the podcast because we are going to spoil it. Listen to that podcast first. So listen to the "Is It Worth a Tenner" review first, and then come back and listen to this. Otherwise, we are going to spoil the shit out of this movie right now. So as said, you've been warned. So boys, I gave my kind of views on it in the non-spoiler review, but people haven't had a chance to hear from you yet. So your overall thoughts on the movie: was it good, bad, indifferent? How did you feel about it when you came out? Just a general kind of sum up, basically, is what I'm expecting. Rich, what was your kind of initial thoughts when you came out?
Good. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. It's definitely inside the top 10 for Marvel films, for me. And I think it's the Thor film that we've been waiting for. And it feels like they finally found the stride of how the character should be portrayed on screen, and and they've really tapped into like one of the things that Chris Hemsworth is good at, which is like not just the physical stuff, but like, you know, like his comedic timing. I remember watching the Ghostbusters reboot stuff, rubbish film thing that came out, my opinion, that came out, was it last year, 2 years ago? And me personally, I mean, it might have had its moments here and there, but the best thing in that film was Chris Hemsworth. Even stuff that I'd seen in the trailer, and they repeated it in the film, and I was like, this guy he's just got a natural flair for being funny, and they really let him run wild in Thor Ragnarok when needed be, and that was good. But like I said, I think they've been building up this Thor character even in these little shorts where it's him and his like roommate Kevin. So like slowly but surely, they've been doing this whole Inception thing of kind of basically what we're going to be getting, before Thor Ragnarok was to come out. But the film itself, I mean, everybody in it was just really, really good. Like I said, inside my top 10.
Okay, cool. Alvin?
Yeah, it was good. It was dope. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was mostly what I wanted. There's a few things that kind of didn't work for me, but destroyed the movie for me at all. So yeah, overall, I was happy.
Cool. Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, Rich, you kind of touched us on this side of the question anyway, so we may as well carry on down that road. But basically, the question was, who do you think were kind of the standout performers from the movie, and what did you enjoy kind of most about their character aspects from the film? So, yeah, as said, Rich, as you kind of started talking about like Thor and the development of the character, you may as well continue, basically. So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Chris Hemsworth he was definitely a standout, but I mean, I'll mention him, but I don't really think he should get the full billing because it's his film anyway. So like, that's what you're meant to do. It's like people who have kids and it's like, yeah, well, I feed my kids. Yeah, but you're meant to feed your fucking kid. Yeah, like so that you don't get a pat on the back for that. So as much as he did put in a good performance, by rights he's meant to put in a good performance anyway. But he's definitely been given a lot more to work with, which is good. But everybody in it, nobody who was any form of character of importance in the film disappointed me at all. Like not even. I mean, there's certain issues with the way how the story's told, where some people should be on screen a bit more, but even when they're not on screen and they do pop up, you're just like, shit, I'm so happy to see them. My standout performance for me, I think, would have to be a toss-up between Mark Ruffalo and Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think Valkyrie has done a lot more in portraying a tough woman, or a strong woman, should I say, when compared to like Gal Gadot's, or even any of the Amazons that were portrayed in the Wonder Woman film. But that's my opinion, and I'm a guy looking at it from a certain perspective as well, and also a guy comic book fan. There could be so many different factors as to the reason why I might have that opinion, but yeah, but I think she really, really stood out for me. I really enjoyed her on screen, and Mark Ruffalo as Banner, which is something that we haven't had a lot of at all. In, if you think about it, in the whole of the MCU, we haven't had a lot of Banner. Is Banner pops up here and there, and Mark Ruffalo is good as always when he's on screen, but we always seem to get like the Green Monster. But yeah, those two characters really stood out for me, and obviously people like Jeff Goldblum, freaking amazing. Like he's just same thing. He's just just give him a camera and then he just chews the screen up. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, those guys, those three definitely stood out for me.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just that when you mentioned Jeff Goldblum, I was like, yeah, like the Grandmaster is just brilliant, man.
Yeah.
But I reckon they literally just gave Jeff Goldblum a copy of the script. He read the first 2 pages and was like, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna do Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, you tell me if that works for you. Like I'm not doing whatever
the best.
he's written
You know the
down
best
here.
scene. I'll tell you the best scene is where he's trying to explain about how Sakaar works. And the reason why he's aged, why he hasn't aged, and he kind of doesn't and he doesn't finish the sentence, and it just has like a quick shot of everyone looking at him to finish the sentence, and I swear to God that has to be improvised. They're just going to be like, okay, Jeff, where's the rest of the line? And then it just cuts back to him, and he carries on telling the story like of something completely different, and I was just dying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, totally, man, totally. Alf, how about for you, man? Any standouts in particular?
What do you mean? Do you mean characters or?
Yeah, character / performer, because I guess the character and the performer are kind of the same thing, aren't they?
I mean, to be honest, with it being a Marvel movie, I wasn't really expecting much from the villain, but I think what Kate Blanchett did as Hela was actually to be a threat. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think any of the Thor villains really have been a threat at all so far. And this is the first one I was like, okay, actually something for him to go up against, which is actually difficult, and they're actually a fucking killer, like throwing bare knives and shit. And it was just like, okay, yeah, now I totally get as to why that would be a big deal for Thor to go up against that, because I think obviously Loki in the first one, it's like, you know, it's his brother, inverted quotes or whatever. So it's kind of like you always knew, like it's not really that much of a challenge, really. You know what I mean? In all honesty. And then obviously in the second one, when you got what's his name, Malekith? Yeah, where you got that dark elf.
He's so memorable you couldn't even remember his name properly.
Yo, I don't know.
That's how
I got it part right. I think I missed out one letter. Innit?
That's how good he was as a character. You couldn't even remember the name, bro. No, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying like he was a crap character. But anyway,
yeah, he didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? He just literally appeared in his ship. Was like, I'm going to return the world to darkness with the ether, with the universe to darkness, even. And then that was it. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of like, and Thor didn't even beat him. Those fucking portals did that mashed up his body, sent him to that next place, and then his ship fell on him. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, but then this, you got this chick who fucking breaks Mjolnir, like, you know, and she mashes up all those Asgardian soldiers and that easily with not even breaking a sweat. You know, she just looked like excuse my French, a bad bitch. You know what I mean? She was just fucking nuts, and she just commanded the screen, and that's why I thought she was a dope villain, because there's not that many dope villains in Marvel, and if there is, they usually kill them off.
Well, it will make them good.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Loki technically, innit?
Yeah, Loki, Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. Shit, yeah, no, I think of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. How did you feel the action was handled in general? Because, you know, I mentioned in the sort of non-spoiler review that I did that I was quite impressed with the way it was all done. I mean, yes, okay, we know that most of this happens on a green screen and, you know, is done with CGI and things like that. But I was quite impressed because, you know, the director of the film, Taika Waititi, who for me was my standout performer from the movie, he doesn't come from a background of doing that. He makes you know, very kind of small independent movies. One of the last movies of his that I saw was a movie that I know Rich really loves as well, which was what's it called again? The
Hunt for the Wilder
Hunt
People.
for the Wilder People. Sorry, I love the movie so much I can't even remember the name. Yeah, Hunt for the Wilder People. You know, and he does. You know, he gets character beats. He gets dialogue, he gets, you know, pacing, he gets how to use humor in the right places, but you've never really seen him deal with anything like this before. But, you know, I felt he kind of handled it really well. I mean, especially the, you know, the sequence with the Hulk and Thor in the arena. You know, it was paced well, it was shot well, it was, you know, everything kind of fell into place properly. And yeah, I was really impressed by that. So for you guys, and especially for you, Rich, because you're an action junkie, you know, how did you feel about the action? Was it on par with kind of what the MCU has been doing lately, or did you think there was areas they could improve it, or anything like that?
No. Like I said, this is the Thor that we've been waiting for. I mean, like when I first saw the film, on the way home, I was talking to Alvin, and Alvin made like a really, really good point. It's like whenever you've seen Thor use Mjolnir, he just throws it in a straight line and it comes back. That's it. But you know, they really utilize. You know, they must have just sat down and gone like, you know what? He just throws it, you know, in front of him and it comes back. Let's see if we can just like shake it up a little bit. Like, you know, make it so that when he does, in fact, this is the reason why I've just had a brainstorm. So when he does lose the hammer, there's a reason why it has had a bit of an impact with him. And it's the bit where he's describing the hammer to Korg as a thing of like, you know, I used to have this hammer and I used to do this and I used to do that. And it's almost like when you hear like Jedi's describing how lightsabers, you know, you make your lightsaber and this is your lightsaber. You just can't pick up somebody else's and stuff like that. So it was almost like the physicality and the fighting style that they gave Thor wasn't just him using a hammer. It was him and a hammer in conjunction with each other. which is something which we, like I said, we haven't seen in any of his appearances. It was really, really well handled. And it was a language physically that still stayed with the character. It's very, very hard. It's a very, very hard thing to describe. But I think the best way to describe it is that I'm trying to think of a bad film as an example to use, but like Daredevil, the one with Ben Affleck. So
Yeah,
you've
good.
got, yeah, so like, I mean, you've got like the first two action sequences where there's you see Ben Affleck and you see his physicality and you see that he's this big burly guy, and then you see him when he goes into like the bar to go and take the people out, and he's using this style of martial arts. And then when he has like the whole romancing fight sequence with Jennifer Garner, who plays Elektra, he has a different style of martial arts, which is all wire work. Now, those two scenes are completely different in style, but those two scenes are also different in the way how Ben Affleck physically as a person even moves. So it doesn't make any sense. But it just works. Like the style that they've used now for Chris Hemsworth, like, it's just perfect. It's the same thing when John Woo did Mission Impossible 2, which isn't that much of a great film, but he looked at Tom Cruise and he was like, you know what? I like the way how you walk. The way how you walk, we're going to give you this particular style of martial arts because it feels more natural to you, and you know, and it's good. I was genuinely impressed, and I like the fact that they're sticking to the fact of Thor, as much as he's just like, you know, sometimes when you think of him, he's just that big blonde brute guy. No, he's a Viking. He knows how to fight. There's something that we haven't seen, you know, we haven't seen quite some time. So that bit when he has the fight with the Hulk in the gladiator arena, and you've got the Hulk using some form of technique, but is more like strength based. You've got Thor ducking, doing jabs, you know, jumping over and doing like, you know, choke holds from behind and things like that. Like physically, let's put it this way: physically, if I had to choose between Superman Henry Cavill versus Chris Hemsworth Thor would win.
You had to find a way to get Tom Cruise in there, didn't you?
I did. I love a Tom Cruise, man. I love it when he runs.
Fucking
I love it when I love it when he looks 6 foot when I know that he's only 5'1".
Alvin, action, man. What did you think of the action? Was there anything that stood out to you? Any particular like fight scenes or action scenes that stood out to you? And yeah, just your overall takeaway from that side of it, really.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it because the previous ones have been lacking, you know what I mean? And then just to see him do his thing in like the first kind of like scene in the movie, and it'd be better than anything you've seen him do before so far. And, you know, the mixture of moves that he was using, the way he was using Mjolnir and all that kind of stuff, and the way he was using the hammer to defend himself from Surtur's fire breath and all that. I was just so fucking impressed. I was just like, holy shit, like, here he actually is. It's taken, well, more than 3 movies if you include the Avengers for us to see him and properly do his thing. Because if you remember the beginning of the Dark World, Rock Monster, and that was it. And I was supposed to be impressed by that. Nah, this was just a fucking something else. And also, I loved like all the other action as well. Like they were doing longer takes. There weren't any cuts, and I was just like literally when that first scene started off, I was just like, oh my god, I can actually see what's going. They're not cutting straight away. I was like, this is hopefully going to be good stuff, you know what I mean? And it just continued to be like that. Like the scene when Hela was fighting all those soldiers, I was just like, oh man, yeah. She not only is she like stabbed a few guys with knives and then done a flip, that's all been in one take. And I was just like, oh god, thank God, you know what I mean? I could relax then. And then obviously you had like the Thor and Hulk, which was about a good 10 minutes. And you know, for it's got a lot of CGI in the scene, but you still suspend your disbelief when CGI is done well. You don't think about it.
Yeah,
I wasn't going, oh, that's CGI, that's CGI, that is, oh, that's CGI. That like for some reason, when Hulk's on screen fighting with Thor, I don't feel like I know it's not real, but my brain is allowed to suspend its disbelief for that moment. So it's like there's not that many like CGI characters that happens with, but with Hulk, that is one of the characters that it happens with, where I'm just watching it for what it is, even though I know it's fucking fake. I'm not saying to myself it's fake, and that's, well, that's just testament to freaking probably it will probably be ILM on it who animate the Hulk and that. But yeah, that scene was dope and it was great. And then again, they got some humor in there, and yeah, they managed to make all the action, although it's very punchy at times, impressive stuff, especially some of the stuff near the end as well. Like fucking Jesus Christ, like I was like, holy shit, yeah, this is the real shit right here. But yeah, it was all good stuff. The action, I liked all of it. Like it was all different but similar, and everything was kind of like it just upped the ante each one, but not in a raise the bar kind of way, but in a be visually interesting kind of way.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. Okay, what did you guys spot many of the Easter eggs and things like that in there? Because I managed to spot a couple, but not a lot. But apparently there's loads, and I must have missed most of them. So did you guys manage to spot a lot of the Easter eggs that were in there? And how many did you spot? Basically, I guess is the question. Alv, I'll start with you.
What do you mean, MCU related Easter eggs, or just
Yeah,
what
just
MCU and Marvel?
and Marvel in general, basically.
The MCU ones obviously are like the fake Infinity Gauntlet. And what was that ice thing that the Ice Giants had that they used in the beginning of the first Thor? Saw that as well. Obviously you got the Tesseract showing up again, which Loki definitely stole. I don't care what anyone says, he fucking stole it. Of course, he took a second glance at that thing and was like, I may need that for later. You know what I mean? But other than that, like I was trying to, man, because the film's not fresh in my head and it's almost been like a week. I can't quite remember. But those are the only things that I kind of I really noticed. But other than that, I'm trying to think. Nah, I can't think of anything else just because it's not fresh in my mind. So I can't even remember if
Cool.
Like if there's anything else that I looked out for.
Yeah, so you covered a bit anyway. Rich, I'm sure you must have spotted loads. So
no, I spotted a few. You know, I did find interesting. I'm not sure if I've made it up in my head or if it actually did happen that way. But the bit where Loki does walk past the Tesseract and he does a double take, does he go like, "Oh, hello"? I'm sure he says something like that. It's just like, I'm not sure, but it's such a Loki character. But it must be in his facial expression.
But yeah. I was just gonna say that written all over his face.
It's like such in character.
It's written all over his face. From the moment he sees it, he's like, "Ooh, ooh, hello." Yeah. But sorry, go
on. I think the main Easter eggs that I remember off the top of my head, the play that Loki, when he's disguised as Odin, is getting the actors to portray as like, I think it's like, was it called the Death of Loki and how he saved Asgard or something like that? But obviously, like the person who plays Loki is Matt Damon. Well, not obviously, because it's either you know or you don't. So the person who played Loki was Matt Damon. The person who played Thor was the other Hemsworth brother. Who I'm not. How many? There's three of them, right? There's Chris, there's Luke, and who's the other one?
I think it was Luke who played him, wasn't it? Because
was it Luke?
Yeah, I think it was Luke. Yeah.
So one of them. But it was weird because I remember just looking at this guy's face and going, "This guy looks like Thor so much. I don't understand." And then I clocked. Oh shit, must be one of the brothers. And then there was obviously like once again I said obviously, but not obviously. It was Sam Neill playing Odin, who's actually one of the main characters in Waititi's last film that he made, Hunt for the Wilder People. And some people may recognize him or know him as one of the paleontologists from Jurassic Park, the first one, and I think the third one.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing those. When Thor lands on Sakaar, the person in the chair beside him, I'm not 100 on this, but I'm sure that's the collector, as in I don't mean the character, the collector, but in fact, he wouldn't be called a collector, he'd actually be called a fencer. So somebody who fences goods that he gets from other people for a particular price. But I'm sure that's a fencer from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Who is basically the in-between person between between the collector and the Guardians or Star-Lord, who's been asked to go and get the orb.
So, I know who you mean. The guy in the first film, right? That he goes to visit at the collector's lair and he brings the orb to him and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's him, but I'm pretty sure it was. The Citadel where they're flying in, there is like that big faces on the sides of the building. So I mean, but I've seen this before anyway. But and I remember people mentioned it. But I did recognize Beta Ray Bill, which is weird because he had the face of Beta Ray Bill and not just Bill. So I'm not sure if that's ever going to be touched upon. Another face did look like Ares, one of the Greek gods of war, who's the brother of Hercules in the Marvel universe. And I think I actually can't remember one of the other aliens. But I'm sure if I see the face, I'd remember what race it's from. So there was that. I did like the references of like when they're talking about how they're going to travel from one place to another, and once again it brought up Xander, which is the whole world of like the Nova Corps, the Intergalactic Space Force. You had Stanley being the barber who actually cuts off Thor's locks, and I'm trying to think what else there was. This one is just like a true fanboy moment. But then you've got Carl Urban who plays Scourge, the executioner, and then you've got Chris Hemsworth who plays Thor, and both of those guys were in the first Star Trek film. Chris Hemsworth played Captain Kirk's dad who dies at the beginning, and Carl Urban who plays Scourge plays McCoy. Is it Leonard McCoy or Bones as part of the Enterprise? Yeah. So that there, I just find those little things interesting. That's the true fanboy in me. But off the top of my head, those are the only Easter eggs that I can remember.
Cool, fair enough. Yeah, we went through enough of that anyway. Okay. Were there any negatives or downsides that you guys kind of had, or things that you felt you weren't quite convinced by, or they could have done better with, or anything like that? Alvin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, some of the comedy was a bit like hit and miss for me. So, like, I think the physical kind of stuff, that's the kind of stuff where I was like, whereas the actual kind of like jokes from things that people said and their kind of reactions to things, that's the kind of shit that I thought was like really funny. But like, it didn't really ruin my enjoyment of the movie. I just didn't laugh at that one bit that other people were laughing at. You know what I mean? And then that was it. But yeah, I'd say some of the comedy just didn't work for me. It just like maybe it was too obvious, or it just seemed a bit cheap. But yeah, some of it just didn't work. Whereas others were flipping great.
Rich, how about you, man?
I actually didn't mind the comedy. I think there was only one joke or two jokes that I heard, and I was just sat there just straight faced. Not to say that I was like, laughing tears throughout the whole film. I think the thing that I was a bit upset with was Hela, and it's like I said, it's just that same thing where when you think of like you guys said earlier, one of the main gripes about the Marvel films that have been released are the villains are just too bit, just quite two dimensional, and they're not really worth, you don't really care about them. You just want them to be on screen, cause some carnage, and then basically just jog on. But with Hela, there wasn't enough time of her on the screen, and when she was on the screen, she did well. Like it was actually quite upsetting that she wasn't given enough time. That's the thing. Whereas like I remember reading interviews, and then when you see Malekith from the second one, and you could see that it was just a dial-in performance. I'm not in no way am I trying to take a jab at or jab at Christopher Eccleston who played him, but he just seemed like he just went in there and he didn't try and do anything special. But with Kate Blanchett, like she was good. She seemed like she was having a blast, and yeah, and I don't think there was enough screen time for her, especially considering that she was the main villain. So yeah, so that'd be my only gripe about it. And something else that somebody did point out to me was I didn't notice it at first, but when I do look back, I do have to admit to a certain degree, the whole death of Odin was just a bit too fast, and there wasn't maybe enough time to register it emotionally, and it almost to a certain degree reminded me of how like Luke Skywalker is in Star Wars: A New Hope, where he's been living with his aunt Beru and his
Mm.
and Uncle Owen for like years and years and years.
And then they're
Yeah,
dead. Oh
and then
well.
they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh well, and then Obi-Wan, who he's hung around with for like a couple of hours,
Yeah, for
and he's
like 2 minutes.
there, yeah,
Yeah,
and he's upset.
I trust you.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but then like, you get Odin being taken away, and he's clearly upset when Hela is coming, and he looks physically angry, like he wants to do Loki something, but then he doesn't really mention it again. The only thing that he really mentions losing is Wilner to Korg. Um, which in itself is still quite a big thing, but as much as you and your father may not have seen eye to eye, losing somebody of that importance, because now you're technically an orphan. You lost your mother in the second film, you lost your father in this one, so yeah, so I think it was a bit glossed over, a bit too quickly and a bit too easily for me.
Mm, mm. Well, again, in my non-spoilers review, I kind of touched upon the things that disappointed me slightly. Hela was one of those as well. Um, Again, it wasn't so much the performance as such. I just think that the character was unfortunately a bit forgettable because for all the exact same reasons that you gave, Rich. Basically, there's just not enough meat given to what she's doing and why. Because she just doesn't have enough screen time. So it's you really don't care, and ultimately she becomes a bit of yet another Marvel throwaway villain, which is unfortunately is going to become a stick that they're going to continue to get beaten with because they're not really kind of solving the problem of how to make these villains more memorable for people. So yeah, I think unfortunately that was the case, and it's a shame because, as you said, I agree with you. The performance that she gave was actually quite good. So yeah, there was that for me, and I also said that it kind of felt at times a bit samey. Although speaking to Alvin about it, me and Al spoke about it privately, and he was made a good point, which was that I guess at this point in its existence, the MCU is almost like an extended TV show now. And it's now in its third season. So familiarity is something that's going to happen because certain tenements have been established, and that's just the way it is when you have a TV show of that nature. And I guess that's what the MCU is, but in a movie, in movie terms. So yeah, there was a little bit of kind of familiarity I felt, and I got a little bit of deja vu in certain scenes where I was a bit like, but haven't I seen this before? In like, such and such. I guess it kind of is what it is, really. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, I didn't have any other major gripes with the movie. Really, I really enjoyed it. So to sum it up, guys, quick scores out of 10 for you, Alvin.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it like 7.5, 8.
Cool. Rich.
I actually don't like to, if you don't mind, I actually don't like to use like a numerical scoring system. I prefer like a grading, so I'd give it like a B plus.
Okay, well, you can kind of just like you
I
could
don't
have
like a
kind of
grading
told us
system,
that
but I'm gonna use a
beforehand
grading system.
rather than changing it in the middle of the podcast. But yes, I guess that means a thumbs up from Richard listeners. Yeah, for me, I would probably, I think I'm along the same lines as you, Alvin. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. I reckon. It's very good, not quite great, but very, very good. And if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, I don't know why you're even listening to this if you haven't seen it yet, because because as I said, we've just spoiled the movie for you, basically. But if you haven't, get out and go and see it because it is really, really entertaining. I said in the initial review that it's probably the funniest of the Marvel movies to date. So even if you're just a fan of comedy, then go and see the movie. It's really, really funny. Okay, well, that will do for that. So we'll wrap that up. Before we move off of Thor, Rich, could you just make a recommendation for people for comic books that they could read if they see the movie and start to get interested in the character and want to know a bit more about the character's background, or maybe even want to know a bit more about what Ragnarok means to the sort of Marvel comic book universe? Is there any kind of book or titles that you could recommend for them?
I mean, basically, I would say go and pick up Walt Simonson's run of Thor. I think which ran from like 83 to like 87. Um, and that really explores like the mythos and how Asgard is run, and he also explores other characters in the whole Asgard, world as well. And he brings in some like I mean, it's him that brought in Beta Ray Bill, turned Thor into Thor Frog as well. And he's got some really good storylines done during his period. So anything by Walt Simonson, I would definitely say go and pick up Jason Aaron's run of Thor, starting with God Bomb, um, which is a good couple of years old now, and that's kind of reinvigorated Thor, even leading up to like basically Lady Thor or like Jane Foster Thor now. Um, so that's at least 2 years worth of reading. I would also suggest maybe picking up J. Michael Straczynski's run on Thor as well, if you're kind of interested as to like where Thor and Asgard are going to be going on from this point onwards. Like I said, this is a spoilers review, so if you don't know now, you're gonna know. Asgard gets destroyed at the end, and you find out that Asgard is a people. But to really understand, J. Michael Straczynski, he really just breaks it down into layman terms and does it in such a smart way. So that could be that. I'll definitely suggest reading that. I'd also suggest reading Greg Pak's run on the Incredible Hulk. So what Planet Hulk, where basically the Hulk actually does land on Sakaar and is forced to become a gladiator. So the thing about Thor Ragnarok is that it's just taken so many good storylines and bits and pieces from all these different writers and artists and just made it into one good story. So all of those ones that I've mentioned, I'll definitely say go and pick them up because at least one of those, yeah, basically all of those stories I've mentioned are in some way, you know, put into the film that you're going to see in Thor Ragnarok.
Cool.
Oh,
All
and
right, thanks so much.
sorry, and go watch Flash Gordon. If you haven't seen the original Flash Gordon, go and watch Flash Gordon. If you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok as well, because like Thor Ragnarok is just like a big wicked homage to Flash Gordon, the 1970s or 1980 film with Sam Jones. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, all right, thank you. I mean, I'm not sure how recommending Flash Gordon works because I said comics, bruv. But
Yeah,
anyway,
but I just had to throw it in. I just had to throw it in. I just because before I forget.
oh man. Well, listeners, we're almost at the end. But before we go, I wanted to quickly run through some of the answers we got this week for question of the week. So, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know how this works. On social media, we usually throw out a question. And we encourage you all to answer it and to give us some fun answers that we can read out on the podcast. So thank you to everybody who got involved and who did that. This week's question was a simple one, really. It was if you could have any mythological creature or pop culture creature as a pet, which would you choose? We got loads of answers, so I'm not going to be able to put them all down. So I'll run through some of the more kind of unique ones, though, which were quite cool. So Just in Time Podcast said Brian Griffin. All the Time We Have on Twitter said Ewoks. Skip to the End Podcast said they would like Gizmo. Kung Fu Driving Podcast said the Ice Dragon from Game of Thrones. In Session Film said Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. We Have a Hulk said they would want one of the wolves from Game of Thrones. Maurizio RCM said he wants a Sasquatch. Atari Vision said Princess Leia from from Return of the Jedi. Yeah, less said about that, the better. Amber is Smiling said Scooby Doo. Gigit Von LaRue said Ludo from Labyrinth. Barking Mad About Films said Milu from Valerian. And Kay Benu said a unicorn. So yeah, thank you everybody. Thanks for getting involved with that. We're going to have another question up this week as well. Obviously, we've got our Halloween podcast, which we'll be recording tomorrow evening. So I'll put something up in the day. So if you want to get involved, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can do that by looking for Wulong Talks on Twitter and the same on Insta. Give us a follow and let us know when you followed us as well, so we know that you're a listener and we can give you a shout out on the next show. All right, guys, was there anything else you wanted to plug or talk about before we wrap up?
No, I think
Good.
No.
everything's go and see Thor Ragnarok because it's a good film.
Yes, absolutely, man.
Subscribe, press that subscribe button. How about that?
Well, before we go, also let me give a few shout outs as well, because I need to do some big ups for some people who have been showing us some love this week, and a lot of these people are people who've been riding with us from the very beginning. But every week I'm going to big you lot up because you keep encouraging us and you keep spreading what we do, and it's because of your support and people like you supporting us that we keep doing this. So as always, big up to Miss L, to the Kung Fu Driving podcast, Basement Condition. Their latest episode, by the way, was really good. It was about revenge movies. Go and check that one out. That was really, really good to listen to. Crazy Town podcast, Glenn and Her, Open All Powers, a Beardo and a Weirdo talk film. Thanks to Captain Beardo as well. He always gives me film recommendations and stuff on Twitter, so I need to check some of those out. Just in Time podcast, PTO, Jay as well from the By Chance podcast. I've got to big up Jay because he's always bigging us up on social media as well. So thank you, man. Talk It Out podcast, Nerds with Words, It's Whatever podcast as well. Much love to you. The Pod Couple, because they're always kind of retweeting our stuff as well. So thank you. The Drunken Dorks as well, always retweeting our stuff. Again, thank you. And lastly, also to Tyson Alphonse as well, who said on our SoundCloud page, you guys rock. And he's going to continue following us with whatever we do. So Tyson, thank you. Again, we appreciate the love, and it's when we know people love what we're doing, then we'll keep doing more of it. So thanks a lot, man. For anybody who wants to get in touch with us, as said, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram. You can find us on Facebook under Wulong Talks. If you have any ideas for things that you want us to review for the new podcast that we're doing, Is It Worth a Tenner? Then you can drop me an email at wulongtalkspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll happily take your suggestions there and pop up a review on the page. And like Rich Kid said, make sure you subscribe, like, share, tell your friends about us, play it to your friends, badger your friends constantly about us. We really, really appreciate it. Okay. Well, we'll call it a night. Thanks a lot for listening as always. And as said, we'll be back with our Halloween podcast special very, very soon. So I'm going to say goodnight. Say goodnight, Alvin.
Night.
And say goodnight, Rich.
Good night, Rich.
You ass.
That shit never gets
I'll
old.
see you
Never
guys.
gets old. I don't give a fuck.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.